or they didn't say interested. They were like, why aren't you doing music for movies and TV shows? And I was like, I don't know anything about it. I remember seeing my record on the shelf and like even like posters on the wall, and I thought, I have made it, man. I've made it. And that was it for me. That was like, suddenly I didn't have a record deal. I couldn't just idolize music, right? There was like relationships, and because it doesn't matter what you do, you can get so into it that you can't see anything else. And that was me for a long time, but you got to keep investing in yourself. You know, exactly the wrong answer. He's like, I want you to start with $500 a day. Don't ever tell them how much you charge. And you're like, well, they gotta know. But it's like, no, you don't. We teach you how to get out of those traditional chords and making chords with more emotion and shapes and colors and that relate to different fears and anxieties, or how do you make those emotions with chords, and how do you move from 1 second to the next. If you're doing a cartoon, it's like, this guy's falling. Then we do Mandalorian, Star Wars, we do Predator. I actually have an academy. It's called ScoreCraft Academy. We actually teach up and coming musicians how to do music from the ground up for film and TV. I think you should go check out the website, ScoreCraftAcademy.com, and it will walk you through how to get started.
Talent will get you started, but mentorship, that's what turns it into a career. Today's guest is someone who's lived that truth. Michael Whittaker is a world-class composer whose music has shaped childhoods, soundtracked major franchises, and left a mark on film and TV for over 2 decades. From Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, and the Addams Family, to scoring for Netflix, ESPN, ABC, and you've probably heard his music without even knowing it. But what makes Michael stand out even more is what he's doing now. Through ScoreCraft Academy, he's mentoring the next generation of composers, offering not just musical guidance, but a real blueprint for building a career in this industry. If you ever wondered how to turn your passion for music into something sustainable, this episode is for you. Welcome to Caffeinated Creatives, the talk show where we dive into all things entrepreneurship, creativity, and turning your gifts into impact. Let's welcome the one and only Michael Whittaker. Michael Whittaker, thank you so much.
Danny?
Come here, give me a hug. Come here. I stink, but hey.
Bring it in.
There you go. Oh, my. It's been a long time coming to have the one and only Whittaker to be in my talk show.
Well, it's good to be here.
Yes, it's an honor to know you.
Oh.
And Michael Whittaker, for those who don't know him, and I don't know how many people are there, because he's known by so many people. My best friend in Hungary, who played drums in a lot of the productions I've done, he knows you in Hungary. Wow. And he's like, wow, you're going to Michael Whittaker? Wow. Yeah. And,
legend in my own mind. Legend in my own mind.
Well, you're a legend to me. I mean, it is, whenever I come over, I'm always excited and nervous at the same time, because I want to be good. I want to gain your trust. I want to gain, I just want to do good. I want to give value. But anyway, I wanted to remember how long I have known you. And I remember it was before going to Berkeley. And you know Tony, my uncle.
Yeah,
bassist.
That's right.
And you played for one of the bands, Eldon Huff bands. You
That's
played
right.
keyboard, and I was in the front, and like, holy cow. And Tony was telling me, that's the guy you need to meet.
Yeah,
and
he was
said,
a good dude.
I need to be your buddy, or I need to get to know you. And fast forward, when I went to Berkeley, I was slowly starting to get to know each other. And then when I finished Berkeley, I was your how do you
intern.
call it? Intern, yes.
Yeah.
And through that internship, you were a big mentor figure for me, which I put a lot of thought into what it really takes, or what does a musician coming out of school or starting their own venture need. And That's why I wanted to have you in, because you have your own business, multiple businesses. That's the only thing that you're doing, and I look up to it incredibly. You're a music producer, you do film and TV, you do trailers, you work with artists, and you're always forward thinking. That's an incredibly hard thing to do, because you have to always think what's next and have a plan.
Yeah.
Now, I want to hear, what was your inspiration to become a musician?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, thank you for those kind words. And man, you've come a long way yourself. I mean, I've seen you grown. You've grown as a musician and do amazing work. So, congratulations there. But my inspiration, I started out when I was really little. So, my mom said I started when I was 4 years old. And I had an ability to just kind of sit down in the piano and play by ear. And I used to sit on my grandma's piano. And then my grandfather used to play a lot of jazz records in the house. And one of them was Fats Waller, who is a legendary jazz and stride piano player. And I just fascinated by how good they were. And then my dad really loved Jerry Lee Lewis, and so he had a bunch of Jerry Lee Lewis records, and I started listening to that. And then he showed me on the piano, he showed me a boogie woogie, and then I got into the blues, and so it took a while, but I just really loved the piano. I actually loved to do it until I had to take lessons. And then I, of course, hated that, because they tried to force me into like classical lessons, which I did for many years. But I always loved just the creative side, improvising and making my own music. I remember my first keyboard was a Roland SH-101, which was monophonic, so I couldn't even make chords on it, but man, I could tweak all the knobs, and I was so excited when I got that home, and I think I paid like $400, which was like a lot of money back then, and so synthesizers and just coming up with sounds, like it just inspired me. And then I grew up in Los Angeles, so I was surrounded by amazing, like some of the best musicians in the world. It seems like, the best musician from, a city in like Hungary the best guy is going to move to LA because they want to test themselves. They want to play with the touring bands and stuff. And so we had this melting pot of incredible musicians from around the world moving there. And so I got exposed to so many kinds of music, from Latin music, world music, from jazz music to funk, to rock. I mean, you had to kind of do everything, And so I was fortunate to, out of school, I was practicing maybe 8 hours a day piano, and I would get up before school and practice. I would go on my lunch breaks. I would go into the practice rooms and practice. Then after school, I would practice, and I was just really into it. And there was one musician, Abraham Laboriel. There was a band named Koinonia, and they were a Christian band, but they were, Abe Laboriel's probably the most recorded bass player in history, and his son was Abraham Laboriel Jr., who now plays for Paul McCartney. So we went to school together, and I was around these people who were just amazing, and we just looked up to them, and they were really encouraging to me. They would hear us play in our pep band at school, and they'd be like, "That's beautiful, Michael." And I was like, "You're saying that was beautiful?" And so that really just inspired me to keep going with music, and eventually went to college and had some amazing teachers there as well.
What inspired you the most in those days to pursue music?
I think it was I just loved I loved learning the instrument, but I was a total jazzer coming out of high school. I couldn't hear any other music other than funk. Like I love funk and Prince and Michael Jackson and Parliament and things like that. But jazz fascinated me, and it was fusion in general, like Chick Corea, that George Duke, who definitely inspired me. And then on the other side of the jazz was like Oscar Peterson and those people. And I just really wanted to get good at what I did. And I just love to play. And when you start playing it's one thing to practice, like that can only get you so far. But when you actually play with other humans and you just feel that energy and you're soloing and everybody is like, supporting you, or even it's a gig and you're playing, pop music or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's like that energy, you feel that camaraderie between musicians. And it's interesting because music, it takes people that have come from all these different backgrounds, life experiences, and all those life experiences collide on stage, and all your background, all your training, everything, and every single situation was different and different, beautiful in the same, like, what I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course.
You play with different players, and it's like, it's just a different flavor of ice cream. That's amazing, so.
That's what I love about it. That will never be changed by anything.
Yeah.
That I knew all the names. I was influenced by a lot of, I'm a big rocker.
Yeah.
My dad, I got into guitar because of him. I couldn't get into anything until I found his guitar, and now I can sit down and try to master it.
Yeah.
And I took lessons, and I started playing bass guitar then, because the teacher at the time said he can't teach me more.
Oh, really? Nice.
And then after that, I started playing piano, because in Hungary, whenever you want to go to a music school, piano is a must. And I think if you're a musician or want to be a musician, whatever instrument plus piano.
Yeah.
I think that
Piano's
helps
the
you.
foundation.
The foundation, the ear training. I pretty much, whenever I'm seeing a chord or hearing a chord, I can imagine where it will be and stuff like that. But the theory aspect, you see the whole thing.
Right.
And then I attended a school that was very unique in Hungary. It was one of its kind. You could learn an art form like music, dancing, or graphic art, and then have the other kind of topics.
So it was like an art school. Like that's kind of what we have here. Yeah.
So for 2 days we had just music. One day we had I had my guitar lesson, and then we had band practice and piano. So it was a chill day, but I always loved it. Nice. I always tried to be the smart ass. And then we had a theory day, which was from like 9 a.m. till like 6 p.m. We had classical theory, jazz theory, ear training, and same thing. I always wanted to be further than anybody. I would take Tony's jazz books or buy these jazz books and read them overnight and try to be as fast as I can with recognizing the intervals, the chords, and things like that. And I loved then jazz, fusion, big funk guy. So I knew a lot of the names that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Now, when you were around that age, when you were studying jazz, what did you think, or what was your perception of what music business is?
When I was really young, I had really great parents that didn't say, I will say that when I said I wanted to be a musician, and decided to do that, they were like, "Oh, that's good. Like you can you can do that and play at parties and stuff, but you should get your business degree. So I actually started out as a business major, and I took an accounting class from possibly the worst driest accounting teacher ever. And that was probably the best thing that happened to me, because I was like, this is not for me. You know, if they would have made it like relevant to the world, then it would have been great. But so then I really made the switch to becoming a musician. Like I switched my major. But my parents didn't tell me like, you can't do it. They just said, it was always like, you can do whatever you put your mind to, So I think that really, I never had the perception business wise that it was going to be a struggle. Little did I know that music is a struggle, but and can be a struggle. But for me, it was the joy of playing. And luckily, I started working actually, I've done so many jobs when I was in high school and the beginning of college. I worked for like Delta Airlines, loading the aircraft. I was a box boy. I worked at the mall selling clothing. I met Japanese exchange students at the airport. Like I did all these. I had my own little car detailing business.
What?
Yeah. So whatever I could do. But then I started playing in a cover band that was working quite a bit, and they needed a keyboard player, and I started working all the time. So once I started working, it was great because, if you're working 4 nights a week and you have a 3 or 4 hour gig, and, if you're doing a casual, which if people don't know what a casual is, that's like a wedding or doing something that you could make. I mean, back then we were making like anywhere from $250 to $500, which $500 was an amazing paycheck for a wedding back then. But that was enough to take care of me. And then all day I could practice, I could create, and it was great. It really freed up my time to learn other things and to get good at what I was doing.
How old were you then?
I started being I would say full-time musician at 19.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I love that your parents also supported it. I'm very grateful that I was the same way, although I had a little bit of resistance from my mom's side.
Of course, yeah.
Because they saw more of the struggle that a lot of musicians have, and
you have to want to do it. You have to need to do it, not just want to do it. It's like, it's got to be like, you have to do it. But what people don't really realize, that it is a business, and that wanting to do it means that you can't like wake up at 10 in the morning and roll to Starbucks and then come back and do it for, a few hours and then take a break and go hang out. It's like, no, this is a job we do,
But it has its own, what I've learned, because I'm thankful. I only worked for Berkeley. That was my only job. I was a studio operator.
Oh, that's cool.
And after that, you know the history there. And there were a lot of mistakes, a lot of things that we made that I learned a lot from. What I'm getting at is you have to be good at your craft, which is kind of like you have to have a good product. Mm-hmm. Like you go to any store, if they have a bad product, they're
right.
Whatever. But where I'm getting at is the aspect of, okay, now how am I gonna start selling this? How am I negotiating? How am I building my prices? How can I showcase value? How do I stand up for myself? All these other things that I don't think I've seen or learned when I was in college. Because school, and the thing is, when you go to school here, when with the one, where I went, not a cheap school. And you come out and you end up having a lot of student loans, and you're like, how am I gonna
Yeah,
how am I gonna hit zero?
right.
Which is crazy to believe that. I would think that it would be better for the economy if people could invest in themselves, create a better business, and things like that. I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm going towards the there's so much to learn even after you're like a never-ending learning student,
Lifetime learner. Yeah.
What have you learned? You studied music, right?
Yes.
And you've studied performance. And what do you think was the most useful thing you learned there? And then what is it that you learned outside in the real world that really furthered you?
Well, I did go to school for jazz performance, but of course I had to take music theory. I had to take all those classes. And then outside of school, you learn about relationships. Like, you learn really quickly too that there's usually in school, depending on what school you go to, if you're at Berkeley, there's going to be a lot of amazing players. But people that go to smaller schools, for example, you might be the best person in your school, but then you start to realize that, man, there's some amazing players. So you have to differentiate yourself some way. You have to be good, whether it's you're diverse or whether you start to specialize in certain genres, or you're going to move into production. But yeah, I also learned that for me, I was playing all the time, and that I learned that even music can burn you out, and if it can become a job just like everything else. And so I had to kind of make a decision. I think I'm kind of at that point, I was touring, I was maxed out on gigs, and some really cool ones, but at the end of the day, it's like you would finish a tour and you don't have a gig anymore. You were making, $3,000-$4,000 a week, and then you come home and then you're like, okay, that's over. Now I got to reestablish myself. And that's how I kind of like started to move towards studio production. I always loved to do it. I had keyboards, and I had, my first computer was a Commodore computer, doing music on that, dating myself. But then I started to realize that I had friends that were doing really well, making money in movies and TV shows. And they were like, hey, would you be interested in doing or they didn't even say interested. They were like, why aren't you doing music for movies and TV shows? And I was like, I don't know anything about it. And so that's when I really made a decision to shift from playing all the time to studying and going back to school to UCLA to study film scoring,
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is strategic planning, and because like you said, gigging so much, that only gets you one, you can't burn out from that. And doing the film scoring, there's another aspect of that: residual income, royalties, and you can work from your own studio. You don't have to go anywhere. Yeah. So
it's a little different than being an artist. I think at 21, I had my first I had a record deal as a jazz piano player. And I remember seeing, back when we had record stores, like Tower Records and Borders and, all these record stores. I remember seeing my record on the shelf, and like even like posters on the wall. And I thought, I have made it, man. I've made it. And a year later, that label went under because the owner and his wife got divorced, and they got rid of the business, and that was it for me. That was like, suddenly I didn't have a record deal, and I was like, man, so you can lose things really quickly.
As fast as you can get stuff, you can lose stuff fast as well.
Yeah, man.
So you have to be very resilient and have a wide variety of things you can do.
I think so. Yeah, like having multiple streams of income. And I think also, you know, on the spiritual side of things for me, you know, I knew that I couldn't just idolize music, right? There was like relationships and, you know, there was a whole other world, because it doesn't matter what you do, you can get so into it that you can't see anything else. And that was me for a long time. But, you know, growing up in church and stuff, I got back to, you know, what was important, and staying home was important, right? So being with my family and not being gone for months on end, and someday wanting to have a family, you know, like have kids. And so that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna, film scoring or doing production would keep me home, and hopefully I could support myself like that, you know.
Yeah, and I remember calling you like months ago, like how, because I got married, and I want to balance these things, you know.
Yeah.
How do I balance? I remember calling you. How did you balance, and what did you learn in the process of trying to figure out how to balance the working on your business, working for the business, and being an active family man, family guy?
That's right. Yeah, it's not easy, because you think that the more you work, the more you're going to be successful. And the older I've gotten, the more I realize it's the quality of work that I'm doing and those relationships that moves the ball down the field better than just constantly sitting. Because you and I, we could probably just sit in front and just make music 24 hours a day. We would be happy, you know. But I had to learn to, like, I have to cut it off at a certain amount of time. I have to go upstairs and, you know, be with my family and give them, you know, that's actually first, then music second, you know. I think I might have told you what I learned from my mistakes was that, you know, one thing I try and tell my wife is that, you know, when you wake up, you say, is there anything I can do today to make your day better? And then whatever that is, you go and do it. And the rest kind of sets itself. Like, you set the expectation of serving one another, and it's the same way even in music. It's like when you come to a session, or when you come to, you know, you meet somebody else, you don't go into meeting other musicians with the idea of what you can get out of it. You go into it with, how can I serve you? You know, and if that will take you way further than like, hey, if you never need somebody, you know, it's just it's a mindset of service and being there to support somebody else's vision before you're supporting your own, you know.
That's very pure.
Yeah.
I like that. I try to, that's how I personally look at it, is I want to be valuable. What everything I'm doing, it's whether you and I sitting down talk about content or whatever, it's this is how, with my knowledge that I have, how can I lift you up? How can I, you know, it's, I think it's a similar thing, you know. Wow.
Because that really, it comes back to you, you know. Because the more valuable you are to somebody, the more they use you, you know.
I like that mindset. That's why I wanted to always learn as many aspects of things as possible. Not only for myself, because I love learning. I also don't like not understanding, but also it adds another thing that you can do for other people, you know. Another perspective or other idea or other, you know, that value, the big V word, value, serving, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I also have to be very mindful, because when I get too much into things, I'm like, I need to finish this. I'm like, okay, it's time to leave it. That will not go. And then you go and you come back to it.
Yeah. One thing I teach my students is that make sure that you set deadlines for yourself. I call them deadlines with a destination, or destination with deadlines. So where you want to get by a certain amount of time, because this is really key to, if you want to do something, if you just kind of are floating and you don't give yourself a deadline, then you're not going to hit that deadline. So you want to see where you want to be, and then you want to figure out, all right, here's the steps, and then put those deadlines in the step, and then you can break those into pieces to actually reach your goals. I had somebody who was a mentor, really great mentor to me, and when I was about 19, I sat down and did exactly that. I really believe in putting things on paper. There's a difference between just mentally thinking about something and starting to write and brainstorm on paper where you want to be. You know, I want to be, by next year, I want to be here, and be honest with yourself about what you have to learn. Where am I not up to par to reach that? What do I need to learn? What do I need to grow in? And how am I going to get there? And so you're learning and growing towards that destination, that time, you know.
How do you keep yourself accountable nowadays?
Well, nowadays, you know, I'm teaching a lot, so I have my academy, right? So I am in an entrepreneurship group, an accountability entrepreneurship group that I actually pay money to be in.
So you pay them?
I pay them just
wow.
to be in this group, and every month we talk about our financial goals. Like, so you have to set goals. Like, yeah, this month I want to make X amount of dollars. My goal this year is to make this figure. And then every month we're working towards that, and we're learning and growing. But I mean, you have to put your money in, and it's not cheap. And so at the end of the day, you know, for me anyway, being cheap already, if I put my money in it, I'm going to, you know, make sure I follow through. If I don't have any financial investment in it, I'm probably not going to follow through, you know.
I see what you mean.
The same in school, right?
Yeah.
Because when you went to school, or at least most people, if you're putting a lot of money into it, well, you better do it, you know. You don't have to, but you should if you're spending good money for school. But as soon as you get out of school, then a lot of people just stop learning, you know. You got to keep investing in yourself, you know.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I like that. My wife is my big accountability. She's a very strategic thinker.
Nice.
But when I know what I was gonna say. One other thing that wasn't taught is the strategic thinking of how to handle your money. And how to know, okay, this is something I need, this is something I don't need, and how to use money in your own favor, because it is an asset. If you can't go too far if you hold on to it, but if you learn how to strategically invest in you, like hiring a coach, hiring a mentor, or something that wants the best for you.
Yeah.
You know, but these are things, again, to learn.
Yeah.
And so you went to school for film scoring, right?
Yeah.
When was that? And what? And
yeah, that was the early 90s. And so I went back to UCLA to study film scoring, and then I was hired. So I had a teacher, was a huge mentor there. His name was Robert Etal, and he was like, and still is one of the number one trailer music guys, you know, for all the movie trailers, all this cool music. And he liked the work that I did in his class, which he was teaching electronic composition for film and TV. And then he started hiring me for his own company. And he would call me for gigs, and he would just mentor me. And he was the first guy that said, in class, he said, he asked me, so Mike, how much money do you want to make? And I was like, I don't know. And I started going, okay, I've got my car payment, I've got my insurance, I've got my apartment I'm living in, and I've got to eat. So I'm adding these numbers up, and I was like, okay, I think I can get by with, you know, what back then it was probably like $2,500 a month. I can get by, right? And he's like, that's exactly the wrong answer. And
interesting.
And he's like, I want you to start with $500 a day. And,
wow, what do you think about that answer?
It changed my life, bro. It changed my life.
How?
Because my strategy wasn't to you know, figure out how to pay for food and this, like that minimum strategy. My goal was much bigger, so my eyesight was kind of open to looking at business in a different way. And of course, we learned about business. You know, one of the things was like, you know, he was like, how do you negotiate something with somebody? You know, and you've asked me that. How much should I charge? You know,
yeah.
How much should I charge? And I'm like, listen, here's the answer. Don't ever tell them how much you charge. And you're like, well, they gotta know, but it's like, no, you don't.
Really?
They don't. Yeah.
What do you ask then, or what do you do? What did he say?
The magic answer is, tell me what's in your budget. You know.
It's interesting. I've heard mixed things about that.
Yeah.
'Cause I've had people who said, ask what their budget is, but then what if they say a lower budget than what they could actually pay you?
Yeah. Well, most of the time it comes back higher than you, especially when you're starting out, than you would already say.
Oh, okay. I see.
And they'll be like you're thinking like, oh, I could do it for, you know, or let's say it was $1,000, and they come back, well, we think $4,000, and you'd be like, okay, you know, but if it comes back really low, they're not your customer anyway.
I see.
You know what I'm saying?
Using that as a filter.
Yeah, using that as a filter, and then as you get comfortable, you know, with it, and they really do force a number, you're going to say a higher number, because you can always come down, but you can't go back up, right? So
I always look at like strategies.
Yeah.
When somebody asks, what do you charge? Some folks suggest to say a range, and you start with a higher number. So like, how much do you charge for video? For a wedding video? Because that happened to me, I made a mistake.
Well, it might be different. I'm mostly talking about in music, but in doing a video, maybe it is a little different. I don't know.
I mean, I think strategies wise, it's similar. I think. How has your experience been pricing music in terms of music production for artists? Because music production, what I feel is it's an intangible thing until you go to a studio and you buy with your eyes. Yeah.
Well, it's really changed over the years. So back in the day, we had to rent a studio. You had a producer. You had all this stuff. Technology has gotten way better, and you can do stuff out of your bedroom now. You know, look at Billie Eilish. I mean, they started out doing stuff in the bedroom. It sounds amazing. So you can do things for less, but for me, as far as like working with artists, when my business got big enough that I didn't need to say yes, like to something, then I could say, this is what I normally get. You know, and I know it's not cheap, but I have, $100,000 worth of stuff just in this room, and, they understand when they walk in this studio, this is not like walking in somebody's bedroom.
Right.
So, and, hopefully the music I do sounds, a level up. One thing I learned too, when, it's interesting, you can spend the first, $200 to $500 you spend on music gear, you get a massive improvement from like going from your iPhone to like going to a, even an Audio Technica $100 microphone into a cheap like preamp, so maybe $200 there. Mm-hmm. And it just sounds night and day difference, right? But the difference from going from that to the $10,000 microphone, the difference in sound quality is only about 20% more. It's not a huge difference.
Then why buy it?
Well, do
Name,
you buy it?
Brand?
Well, you don't have to, sure. But the perception of what it's, the value it has, and it does. I mean, the right gear, there is that certain level of something that sounds like a demo to going to something that sounds like it's, professionally done. But nowadays, everything, even the cheap stuff, sounds so good that, truthfully, it's between your ears and what you're understanding.
Psychology.
Yeah, but it's the producer, the guy, that's the value. Like you're getting all my years of experience, and not just the gear. I
got like a word or two words in my mind. What you were saying, it's the difference between value and perceived value. Mm-hmm. And I hear that a lot, or I see it, or whatever. And because I try sometimes, like, oh, I'm pretty busy, so what if I try a higher number? You have that little game, and like, I am okay if they say no, but what happens?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it works out sometimes.
I'm in an entrepreneurship group, like I told you about.
Yeah.
And one of the guys in the group is a video guy, and I remember him coming into the group. We didn't know they're all different businesses. There's only 10 of us allowed in the group, all different businesses, but you have to be an established business to be in there. And you don't have to make a lot of money, but you have to be a legit business. But I remember the video guy who had been through the program the year before, and we were saying how much money the business was going to earn, and he was like, yeah, I'm shooting for $900,000 this year.
$900,000?
$900,000, yeah. Woo! And I said, wow. And he's like, yeah, I'm on target for this. And I'm like, so what does this guy know? Like, because I bet you he doesn't do any better work than you do.
I don't know.
But I bet. But he knows something that you don't know.
But that's the thing about price. It also puts some sort of like an expectation or like an image.
Yeah.
And that's the.
But maybe he knows also how to reach the client.
Yeah.
That has that kind of money, that you're reaching to the client that, doesn't have that money. You know what I'm saying? So he knows how to find those people.
It's also, I think, marketing and how you present yourself.
Right.
And which is what my goal for my wedding video company is, to only get the higher paid, which I have a very specific style of editing, and I'm talking about the gear, and I'm educating, and I'm currently working on that website, and I'm trying to learn from how these other businesses kind of modeling. I have that modeling thing, which is kind of like mentorship, but not a one-on-one. You're like, okay, this business is doing kind of good. What is it that they do better than I am that makes them get higher paid clients, or what's the word? What's that right word? Anyway, so I'm thinking about modeling and basing something Does that make sense?
Yeah, not most people though won't be honest and reflect on our weaknesses. We know our strengths, but we have to grow in those areas where we can to get to that next level, because you're good at what you do, and what you do has gotten you to this level. But it's that stuff that you don't know that you got to, step it up. It's for all of us.
That's a lot of reflection. It's a lot of reflection. And also, because I've worked in second shot with people who have that perceived value higher, which makes them able to get charged more, which if I can fix that or work, everything okay?
Yeah.
Oh, checking yourself out, eh?
I'm just making sure that thing's on.
Oh, it's still on, and I'm 69%.
Okay.
Yeah, you can shoot for a long time with these puppies.
Nice.
But I'm glancing. Checking if they're on. That's where like what you said, with the microphones. For that, you're only getting that. I don't know. It's a lot of communicating and the perceived value. It's a lot of things to think about, which is what I've learned I'm a business, but I have to think about all these things. And do I have the time to learn this skill, or do I have the money to hire somebody that can help me with that?
That's right. Yeah.
Or how can I get to that point where I can hire somebody that does it? Because so far I'm doing all this work, and I'm saying that it's probably the education. Like, why do you charge that much? This is why. And you have to always educate, because I always say that I don't like to be that like used car salesman type of salesman, because I think that's a little, but I aim to grow it to a place where I can have a second shooter, an editor, and a mini team that gives an experience.
Yeah. I'm ready to go out and shoot with you, by the way. Just for the experience. I want to learn how to do that.
Do you want to go shoot weddings?
Yeah, let's go do it.
You're going to make my second
Do I have to get a tux?
Usually
Can I get
not.
a pink tux?
But I have a funny story. I was shooting a wedding this weekend, and after 6 hours, I got a little chafe down there.
Oh.
And I was walking like I shat myself. And I'm walking, and the photographer comes, "Hey, everything okay? You need to use the bathroom." I'm like, I just got a little thicker thighs, and after 6 hours, I got a little chafed. She was laughing. It was funny.
Oh my gosh. And then
Yeah.
they sent you home.
No. I was trying to chill and make sure I'm not looking like something happened.
Nice.
But all the things that we're talking about, there's one coexisting thing. It's mentorship. It's having somebody who can point you to the right direction. And I can tell that all of these people that you had in your life have inspired you to also come with your own mentorship program called the Inner Circle. And you also have ScoreCraft. So what were the things that inspired you to create these two elements, and what do you hope this gives to the students?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to learn. Like when you want to learn a craft, if you want to be a carpenter or something like that, you just don't go one day a month and decide, I'm going to be a carpenter and I'm going to be really good at it, doing it one day a month, right? It's just unrealistic. But maybe you start out one day, a month, or one day a week, you start working on it and see if it's something you like to do. And if it's something you enjoy, and then you can dive into being a master at something, right? So I have the Inner Circle, which is, if you go to ScoreCraftAcademy.com, it'll say Composer Meetup. And the idea was that I have a lot of people that have graduated ScoreCraft Academy, and they want to continue to be challenged, and they want, so every month they get a new project. Like last month we worked on Harry Potter, right? And this month we're working on the movie Gravity. So we're working on sound design and all this really cool stuff. And but for some people, they're coming in and they don't know, they didn't go through the academy, they don't know a lot, but they're coming in to see the process. They're going, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to try and write some music for this, and it may suck, but if I really enjoy this, then maybe I will go and decide to go to the academy, and I can see if I can trust this guy too, so that's one thing for me. I really care about my students, and I really am proud that I just have a lot of students that said, there's no way I could have learned this on YouTube, and I actually went to this, Berkeley or USC, and they came through my program and said they didn't even talk about this in those schools. And so, not to put those schools down at all, but I wanted something that would be a faster track for people that were already in the business, already had a family, or already doing music, but wanted another source of income. One thing I know that for me, the amount of money I was making on gigs versus how much I got paid to do a TV show or to do a promo or for a track that got licensed, they weren't even in the same ballpark, right? There's much more money in film and TV. So for me, that was something that I wanted to work hard towards, and that's my goal, is to get my students to that place where they first start making it as a side income, and then they grow to a place where this can be a full-time thing if they want it, or as they grow older in life, it's ageless, and all the stuff they're doing creates royalties for the rest of their life.
How often do you teach that class? Every year, right? It's a yearly
The
thing.
inner circle is once a month, and so that's every month. You can jump in, and there's no obligation. You can jump in and jump out of the program anytime you want. The ScoreCraft Academy, that's taught twice a year, because we have a limited. I still am a working composer, and so I can only do so much with that, and I give them 100% of myself for 5 months, even though I'm doing other work. We meet twice a week via Zoom. Every single week, you're scoring new genres of movies and TV shows and video games, and you're learning the business side, and then you're learning the technology. There's a lot to go over, so it's a little bit of drinking out of a fire hose, but by the end, it's unbelievable, the transformation that these students are getting. And we also make sure at the end that you're, like I've told you, you're not on the no plan. We actually have a written plan for you that you are going to follow 1 month out, 3 months out, 6 months out, 1 year out. You're trying to hit these goals. Here's who you're going to talk to. You're going to do this, and this. And so that you're not like, you get out, when I got out of school, they were just like, good luck, and I don't want that for people. I want them to feel really encouraged and feel like they're, they have a path.
I think that's very empowering and very necessary. And so how did you structure the lessons for ScoreCraft Academy?
Yeah.
And the inner circle, that's a mentorship program or a meetup?
It's more of a composer meetup.
Okay.
They can ask me questions, but basically in the inner circle, you would get a video this month to work on yourself at home. Then you bring it, you come to class and you watch how I did it, and I teach you all the techniques so that I'm teaching you a lot of things, and you can ask me questions about yours, and then if you want, it's an upcharge, but I will actually review yours and give you feedback on your cue if you want to have that as well.
And that's for the inner circle?
That's for the inner circle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun. We have so much fun. And ScoreCraft Academy, you start out by, when we talk about music and for movies and TV shows, we're talking about emotion. We're talking about whatever a character is feeling. There could be two characters. Like this guy could be really angry. This guy, this woman may have no idea that he's really, or vice versa. And so you have to decide what character you want to play, or maybe there's action going on, and at what intensity is this going on? So what we learn is how chords work, and the chords you learn in school, just your major and minor chords, they work fine, but we teach you how to get out of those traditional chords and making chords with more emotion and shapes and colors and that relate to different fears and anxieties, or being super happy. So how do you make those emotions with chords, and how do you move from 1 second to the next? If you're doing a cartoon, it's like, this guy's falling. Oh, this guy's just got hit on the head, and now they're running, and now they just stop, and now so you have to hit all these things. And how do you do that? It's really fun to learn how. It's learnable. And we learn about the orchestra, because the orchestra has a huge range of emotion, but we're not always just scoring with the orchestra. We can use synthesizers, we can use sound design. There's just a world of sound, whatever gets the job done, whatever the director wants. And so every week we actually start out with the movie Thor, and then we go to Sonic the Hedgehog, and then we go to a cartoon, this really little kitty cartoon. Then we do Mandalorian. We do Star Wars. We do Predator. We do even a romantic scene from the Titanic. So you're getting all these different ways of all these emotions that you can learn. And so by the end of it, you actually have way more experience than most people that have been to school and are coming into, wanting to be a composer. You've done actually 20 projects by the time you're done, that's a lot.
Wow. I think it's because it's well designed, it's super focused.
Yeah.
And it's end-oriented, end-goal-oriented. End goal. I thought it's a Mandalorian, end Galorian, whatever. Wordplay. Very end goal oriented, and it's so filled with projects that there's no way you cannot not learn from it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Because when you're in school, you have these other classes, other projects, and you kind of start something, then you have to start different things.
Yeah.
It's because it's so focused. That's why I think your program
and school is focused on testing. We're focused on
real life.
Yeah, on real life. Like, it is what you're doing working, and is it up to the standard of you being able to work? And so you get, every single week we watch each other's music, and you get feedback from me. Okay, this is working, and take a look at this. Do you notice that this chord you picked is actually, you played a major chord right here, but there's all this anxiety going on. So like we break down, or this instrument, actually sounds kind of funny. Like a better choice would have been this, And so everybody gets that feedback every week, and you actually learn from watching other people in the program. You become really good friends with people in the program. And by the end of it, like, you've gone through this whole thing, you've given birth together.
Wow. And it's not graded, but it's real life. Like,
yeah, you do get a certificate at the end if you go through the whole program. And so your final project you do is, so in the real world, if you were to get a TV show, you would get it probably on Sunday night. And if it's a weekly show, they're doing one a week. So you got to turn in up to 23 minutes of music by Friday. Wow. So that's a lot to work on. So your final project in the class is doing an actual show yourself, a half-hour episode.
Wow.
And so you get to see if you're ready yet. So,
wow.
So I encourage my students, take a week that you can spend a week and do this. And, you know, or even if you, a lot of them have day jobs, you know, so they still do the program, but they can keep track of the time that they're composing. Because in the real world, you know, you oftentimes have a week to score a show, and a movie, you know, could be a lot longer than that. You know, a movie's going to be, you know, probably a couple months. But my first movie was one of the Leprechaun movies, and I had 3 weeks to score the whole movie. It was about 60 minutes of music.
Are 3 weeks our usual time? What's the smallest amount of time you were given?
That was the smallest. That's the smallest for a movie.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Woo.
Yeah, which is crazy, and it was all orchestral music. And the most would be, you know, like 6 months. And that's usually because they don't have their act together. They give you parts of the movie to score, but they're like in animation, the animators aren't finished doing something, and cuts are going to change. So
do you ask for like a final cut?
Yeah.
And then
I want it to be as final as possible, because as you know, to do tweaks takes a long time.
Ooh, what's the toughest, if you can talk about it, toughest experience that you've had? If only if you can talk about it.
Yeah, I can talk about it. I won't name names, but
you don't have to.
Really, there's a couple. There's many of them, because you're dealing with personalities and egos, and I think probably. Let me think about this. One of the toughest things is dealing with fixes. And so I did a series for, I can't even say it because they don't know it. But it was like 4 1-hour things, and then I had maybe 20 half-hour episodes. And you would think after doing all these that I would have figured out what they wanted, but by the end, they were still giving me, for a half-hour episode, like 14 pages of notes, and little notes, you know, like, change this. Oh, can we try something else on this bell sound? And and I was just like pulling my hair out, going, oh my gosh. And they're so subjective. It's not like, you know, it's not like, oh, you just totally missed this. It's like, hey, we want to hear something more like this. And they don't realize that, you know, for you to make those changes is like starting over a lot of times.
Holy
you know,
cow. How would you deal with that? Would you have a conversation, or would you?
I did. I have to have a conversation, and in our agreements, we usually have how many rounds of fixes we'll do, and this one was 2 rounds of fixes. But each round was just brutal, you know. And so, you know, you have to have a thick skin in this business. You know, your ego, you have to set it down. And that's really hard to do, especially when you're making music and what you think is really amazing, and they don't like it. And you're like, well, you don't like it because you don't understand music, you know. But at the end of the day, they're your boss, and you have to give them what they want, you know.
Yeah, it's our creation, but when they listen to it, it's how is it working with what their creation? So it's a product, right?
That's right.
In a way, so and it's hard to detach yourself from the creation, but learning that is tough. How did you learn to have a thick skin?
I think I'm still learning it, to be honest with you. I have a hard time. I've lost gigs because I've argued too much with the director, you know.
What's the worst that you've heard? Did people curse at you?
People curse? No,
like how bad it is?
No, never, because I'm still polite, but you know, if you're like, this is your body language, is like, really? Like, then,
No, not your body language. I'm talking about like when they were saying stuff. Were they ever mean to you?
oh yeah, well, I don't think they're not necessarily mean to me. They're just, they just don't realize what they're doing to you, how much extra work that they're doing, to you. And so you're kind of hiding it, and so the only time I've had somebody actually be mean to me was when I was working for a company that they wanted to fire on a particular TV show, and I was the composer, and they did not want me to be the composer, but because the company I was working for said, we want Mike as the composer, problem is you have a lot of executives battling, for who they want to do what. And I would redo a scene, 5 times and send it back. They rejected them all. And they just rejected them because they wanted their guy on the show.
They just wanted you to get tired of it and leave?
I was a staff composer. So at the time, I was working for ABC.
Oh, wow.
And I was a staff composer. So they were the production company working with this director who didn't want them to have any say in his show.
Wow.
And so they were battling it out. And one of the things is he wanted his guy to be the composer and every other position. And so it was a constant battle. And so,
holy cow.
So eventually they were just like, Mike, just step away from the show. We're going to give it back to this guy because, he was being a jerk. And so
they just told you that, Mike, just step away. Did
you
get paid anything at all?
Oh yeah, but I was on staff, so I was getting paid a salary. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
So as a composer, you can become a staff composer for networks. Is that still a thing?
No, I mean there are staff composers for different music libraries, and like it does exist, but it's few and far between. It's very, very, very difficult to get.
Interesting. By the way, thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Wow, very
yeah, and a
interesting.
lot of composers will hire other composers. Like Hans Zimmer has a team of a ton of orchestrators and guys that help bring his music to life.
How do you get into that inner circle? Like, you are a composer. How do you get into? I guess let me ask this: when I'm watching a movie and I'm seeing music by yada yada, does that mean that they composed all the songs, or that was the person who oversaw it, so they could have hired those other people?
They could have very well hired other people, and it happens all the time, where they have ghostwriters writing for them, but they're paying them. So that is a viable thing. They'll usually say, okay, I have 10 minutes of score, and we'll pay you, $500 a minute or whatever they're going to pay you. And so then you go, okay, well, it's 10 minutes, $5,000. It's 2 days of work for me. And so I take the gig. I don't get screen credit, but they may still give me, they may split the writers with me. They may, there's a lot of different things.
Wow.
I don't care if I'm getting paid, and
you don't care if you're getting paid?
Yeah, no, I don't care as long as I'm getting paid.
I see what you mean. Okay.
I would like screen credit, but it's not even possible a lot of times, because a lot of those screen things that have been animated and done are done well before your
really?
Yeah, before they're assembling it, So.
Can you say that you scored that music even though you were a ghost in it, or you can't?
I don't think you can put it on like your website or something.
Oh wow,
like that.
So whatever you ghost compose, have you done ghost composing?
Oh yeah.
But you can't say anything, whatever
I
you
still do. So
oh wow,
yeah.
Interesting. How how do you get into that realm? Like, do you just message that person?
No,
you see, or like, hey, I'm a composer. I'd love to compose.
That usually
path?
comes from a reference. Usually one composer, like we kind of know each other, it's just like musicians. Like, how do you get a job as a guitar player?
It is relationship
Almost
based.
100% time, it's somebody refers you.
It's a relationship based. Somebody's got to have a good experience with you.
That's right.
It's like, why do you go to a restaurant? Oh, this person said it's a good restaurant. I mean, in a way, it's similar.
It's similar. Yeah, sending demo tapes, and we really talk about this in our academy, like just sending a cold demo tape almost never works.
Yeah, that's why I think I stopped all that cold thing, because
I mean, you still have to do stuff, but it's all based around relationships, and it's all about.
That's where I was kind of getting. I was gonna say like warm. There's a term that's like cold, and then there's the warm where they know you a little bit.
Warm leads and cold leads.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But before we continue, guys, Mike has a tremendous amount of knowledge, and he's a trustworthy person. Check out his website, will you? What's the website again?
ScoreCraft Academy.
ScoreCraft Academy. ScoreCraft Academy. And that's ScoreCraft Academy. And I'm sure he will be a phenomenal mentor for you. And if you're struggling, if you're burnt out, we all been there. Check out this video. That's just not enough. I need some help. I need to call my friend Mike. He might know what I can do.
Hey, what's up, Danny?
Hey, Mike, what up?
How you doing?
I'm all right. I've been a little burned out, playing a bunch, and I need to make some big advancements. I'm burned out. I sometimes don't want to play, and I'm tired of all the late night gigging. And you're kind of like a mentor to me, and I wanted to call you and see if you have some advice that I can take to take things to the right direction.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that, but I was in a similar place, many years ago when I was just gigging all the time. I was stressed out from trying to find, go gig to gig, and really I started to get into film scoring, and I studied film scoring for a while, and I landed my first gig scoring the Power Rangers TV show, if you can believe that, in the 90s. And, I actually have an academy. It's called ScoreCraft Academy. We actually teach up-and-coming musicians how to do music from the ground up for film and TV. I think you should go check out the website, ScoreCraftAcademy.com, and it will walk you through how to get started, and we would love to help you, bro.
Thank you so much, Mike. I need real mentorship. I need something that I can follow. And I knew I could call you and get a real heart-to-heart. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Well, you're welcome. Let's get you off the no plan and onto a solid plan to help you to make money so you don't feel like you're spinning your wheels all the time.
Thank you so much. I'll check everything out.
All right. Talk soon.
Talk soon. In this industry, you really need a mentor who can help you figure out and have a plan, not a no plan like you like to say. So I invite you guys to check out Michael Whittaker's program, the ScoreCraft Academy, and your inner circle. I wish that was around when I came back to the States.
And we're also doing now we're growing it to we have a music theory course now we're doing, and we're gonna launch that depending on when people see this video. But there's a thing on the top that says music theory course, and I just find a lot of people, that come out of pop background, they have to catch up with music theory, and we do it in 16 sessions.
Oh wow!
And it's really affordable, and it's and I would highly recommend that. Music theory, a lot of people, like if you're just going to songwrite for pop music, maybe it's not as important, but it's a language. It's like if I was going to learn to speak Spanish, I can excuse me, I can tell you, like, ask where's the bathroom, but my vocabulary is not very big. So it's the same in music. If your vocabulary is very small, you don't realize what you're missing if your vocab is pretty small. So it's not just that, I can do film scoring or I can do this. It's that when you do music for yourself, when you even for your own enjoyment, for your own creativity, suddenly you can, it would be like Shakespeare only knowing a handful of words. It's like you can express yourself in amazing ways. And so I think that's what the benefit of music theory is. You walk away for the rest of your life, if you're a musician, with a much better language.
I mean, look at the biggest pop artists, and like Michael Jackson, his songs are incredibly well arranged. All those background vocals, like he was one of my favorite artists, and producer who produced him, he passed away recently. What was his name again?
Who, Quincy Jones?
Quincy Jones. He died. As
When
far
did he
as I
die?
know. I think a couple months ago.
Oh, you better check that one out. 'Cause
I-
I didn't know.
You didn't hear it? Quincy Jones. If I would say, Jamie, check out the reference. If this was Joe Rogan, but this isn't. Quincy Jones. Yep, November 3, 2024. He died at the age of 91.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. I know.
Maybe I heard that and I just, it didn't register or whatever, but yeah, Quincy Jones he was so phenomenal. I mean, he was an amazing jazz arranger,
And that's what I think made those songs so unique and stand the time or test of time. Stand the test of time.
Yeah.
That's the saying. Or like ABBA. I think ABBA, those Swedish folks, Swedish songwriters, I think they're all very educated songwriters. Yeah.
Yeah. I think also Quincy Jones, he was just so good at bringing the right people together to make a song, he was amazing. He discovered Jacob Collier as well, so cool.
I know that our episode could probably run for so long because there's so much stuff that people can learn from your experiences and things like that.
It's just fun. It's fun talking music,
And that's why I recommend ScoreCraft for you. Learn from him. But seriously, all of this stuff, I love learning more about you, Mike. I love learning about your how you got into music, and an even bigger picture of the why you want to be the mentor figure for folks who want to take their education and have a plan and not be on the no plan. I'm going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so And also, if you guys enjoyed this episode with Michael Whittaker, please like, share, and subscribe. And check out Michael Whittaker's your own Facebook, YouTube, or your YouTube.
YouTube, yes,
Yeah.
Witty Music.
Yeah, I guess the better thing will have been, where can people find you?
Yeah, probably the best is if you want to hear music and stuff that I do or stuff that I teach. Witty Music is my WHITTY music. Maybe we can put it on the screen.
Yeah.
It's my YouTube channel, and we talk about production and film scoring and all that. And then on Instagram, I think it's Witty Scores, and Film Score Seminar on Facebook. I'm not a big social media guy. I've kind of gotten away from that because it's so distracting in life, and there's so much negativity about it. But I love being able to reach out and teach on YouTube, and also my at ScoreCraft Academy. You can actually book a meeting with me if you're interested in the course and see if it's a good fit for you.
Awesome. Well, I wish this course was available before I went to school, but I'm very grateful that we met and we grew our relationship, and I'm very excited to see this course grow. All the other things that are cooking, brewing, all the ideas that you have for the class, and I'm super excited about it. So again, for another time, check out ScoreCraft Academy because it's worthwhile.
Thank you, bro.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much,
All right,
Mike.
buddy.
Come here, bro. Thanks for tuning in to Caffeinated Creatives. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a shot of insight. And if you are serious about leveling up your music career, check out Michael Whittaker. His mentorship and courses might just be the blueprint that you have been searching for. So, see you next time. Bye-bye.